Steve Headley is the Senior Assistant General Secretary for RMT, and he also serves as a trustee on the Pensions Board of TfL's pension fund. Steve, is there a crisis facing the TfL pension?
No, absolutely not. As a trustee, I've been on the board for 10 years, and the pension scheme is in the finest shape that it's been in those 10 years. It's 98% funded now, and we believe the next triennial evaluation, which will be due early next year, will mean it's not only 100% funded but in excess funded. So what we have here is an attack on the pension scheme, which is part of a bigger attack that the government are forcing on TfL, and unfortunately the Mayor isn't opposing, where they're trying to cut costs in TfL. And to be quite honest, I mean, the pension fund is a very good pension fund, but the savings they will make from that are relatively small. So we have a politically motivated attack on a pension fund. The pension fund is in the best shape in a decade, probably for more than a decade, and people will remember, those that have been around for a long time, that management had huge holidays, up to 10 years holidays of paying any money into that pension fund. So how dare they come back now when this crisis has been foisted upon us by the government and demand that workers pay from their pensions literally for the rest of their lives by attacking our pension scheme?
And Steve, as a trustee, have you been able to speak to the so-called independent board that are investigating our pension, led by Brendan Barber?
Yes, we have, and I'm part of the pension contact group. But as a trustee, and I think this is very important, if there was anything wrong with the pension, I'd be legally obliged, as with the other trustees, to put that right by either increasing contributions or taking away benefits. That is clearly not the position, and we've made this very, very apparent to Brendan Barber. So not only have you got all the union representatives on the trustee board, you've actually got the management representatives, including the chair and the secretary, and the chair is independent, all saying that this fund is in a very, very good position financially and doesn't need to have any alterations made to it whatsoever.
And what do you say to people who might think that if we were to protect the current members but close it to people in the future, or agree to a cut in the benefits in the pension fund, that somehow might save it? What do you say to that idea?
Well, can I give you an analogy? That's a cup full of water, and if you can imagine, I'm pouring in water into that cup and there's a hole in the bottom. And the water going into that cup would be the money from new members coming along, and importantly the money that management put to those new members. So for every pound a new member would put in, management would put in £6. Now if we stop pouring that jug in, if that jug is reduced or the water flow is reduced, the cup's going to start emptying because there's still a hole in the bottom. More and more people are going to get pensions every year, we hope, but the amount of pensioners is going to increase. And eventually the cup will run dry if we stop pouring money in. So what's important for people to realise, although people will say, and they're quite right, because the pensions accrued up until this minute are safe, pensions going forward are not. We've had pension schemes that have been closed to new members, and that pension scheme had to close entirely because in order to keep it open, the amount of contributions demanded from those members was something like half their gross wage. So people couldn't afford to join the pension scheme, and the pension scheme was eventually closed. So there's absolutely no guarantee for people still in employment that their pensions won't be adversely affected if we close this scheme to new entrants.
And so Steve, what's RMT going to do to protect the pension?
Well, we've made it very clear to Brendan Barber and his so-called independent investigation that the only outcome that we will take is no change. This pension fund does not need to be changed. It's in a very healthy state, and I will reiterate, if it was in a perilous state, I would legally, as a trustee, be forced to make changes. That is clearly not the case, and that's a unanimous position of the board. So we will oppose it as trustees, and of course as a union, what we will do as a trade union, We will use every tool in the box in order to protect this pension fund. It's certainly one of the best in the country. And ultimately, if they're going ahead and trying to force these politically motivated changes, we will be balloting our members for action, and I hope that everybody will be supporting their union and support themselves by doing so.